So the other day, I was talking to a friend of mine, and she goes, "You have to tell that horrible date story, the one with the hospital." And I was like, "Oh my god, you are right." So, how did I end up running away from a date through a hospital at midnight? Okay, I don't think this is my absolute worst date ever, but it's definitely top tier. And I feel like we maybe need to start a series, like the worst date I've ever had. Because apparently I have material. So these episodes will be shorter than usual, but I will make sure to give you a lot of them. Welcome to today's episode of As It Is. So this one goes way back, like over a decade ago. I had just came out of a very toxic relationship, but here's the thing. I was already mentally out of it way before the breakup. So by the time it's officially ended, I was ready to date. And back then, there was this whole trend on Facebook, these matchmaking groups where your friends will literally post you like you're some kind of product, which honestly, not so far from reality. So my friend wrote this whole post about me. Very sweet, very flattering, very cute pictures, but I was and still am really picky. I always knew exactly what I want and more importantly, what I don't want. So out of everyone who messaged me, there was one guy who reached out and I decided that okay, he looked decent, not much looking like a creep. Let's do it. We started talking, it was going well, and we decided to meet. He lived like an hour and a half away, and he offered to come to my city. Now, important detail, I am a very careful first date person. I don't invite guys to come up, I don't get into cars, sometimes I don't even give them the real address. It's rule I have to protect myself from creepy dudes. Like, I genuinely don't understand women who just hop on in strangers' cars on a first date. No, absolutely not. We are not doing that. My rules are public places, I drive myself, I can live whenever I want, and nobody knows where I live until I decide I do. These are not crazy rules, these are survival rules. And I had followed them for years, never had a problem, because the rules work, which make what happened next even more insane, because this man managed to break every single one of them before we even met. So tell me why. This man somehow remembered which floor I lived on and came up to pick me up from my door. A simple "I'm downstairs" was perfectly enough. Now, it's not like I was really surprised. I was more uncomfortable than surprised. Now, I opened the door and here this guy was with flour. But wait, did it ever happen to you that you ordered something online and expected to be something, but then it arrived and you got something completely different? Yep, I got catfished. This was not the man I ordered. He was a completely different human. And I want you to understand something. What I mean by completely different is not like, oh, he looked better in his photos. Everyone does that. No, not like, okay, he used an old picture, whatever. No, I'm talking different height, different build, different face. Like, if you showed me the photos and then showed me him standing at my door, I would genuinely not make the connection. My brain was doing that thing where it just refuses to load. It's buffering because the information doesn't match the file. And I'm standing there holding the door open, looking at this person, and I have about 3 seconds to decide. Do I say something? Do I pretend everything is fine? Do I just slowly close the door and move cities? I went with option 2. I smiled, I took the flowers, I said, "Oh, how sweet." And I immediately started planning my exit. And in that exact second, my brain switched from "this could be nice" two, I need to escape. So I guided us to a bar next to my place, where I knew they were very strict about ID policy, and I made sure not to bring mine with me. So I hoped for the best. They didn't ask. Of course they didn't ask. So now I was stuck sitting there on this date that I didn't wanted, but I started to text a friend of mine and asking for rescue. Listen, you need to save me. I have to be done with that date. And I want to be clear. I'm not hiding my phone. I'm not doing the sneaky under the table thing. I am fully, openly, visibly texting like he could see me. I did not care because at this point the social contract has already been broken by him at my door with flower with a different face. So I felt completely fine about being on my phone. My friend, bless her, she didn't even ask too many questions. She just said, okay, what do we need? And we came up with a really convincing story. We decided she was pregnant, early stages, and suddenly having severe pain. She went to the hospital, and her husband is on a work trip. So I was the only person who could go to be with her. Perfect, right? We thought so too. So, about 20 minutes into the date, I told him about my poor sick friend, and at first, he didn't get it. He didn't understand that the point was we have to finish the date. But I insisted. I have to go. I'm going home. I'm changing. I'm packing her a bag with goodies and I'm going to the hospital. And here's the important part. The hospital was literally 5 minutes away from my house. Walking distance. So, but that guy, he was like, I'll take you. No, no, really, that's fine. I tried to get out of it. I really did. But he insisted. So now this man was waiting under my building to drive me to the hospital. Well, no one was waiting for me. He dropped me out. He dropped me off at the entrance, and in my head, I was like, okay, he'll leave now, and then I'm going home. But guess what? He stayed. Of course, he stayed. He literally waited to see me going inside. So I went in. I walked through the hospital like I fully belonged there, turned a corner, found another exit, and left from the other side. And suddenly, it was midnight, and I found myself walking around my not so friendly neighborhood. Such a vibe. So I called my friend, the one who was supposed to be hospitalized, and she stayed on the phone with me the entire way home. We were crying, laughing. Like the kind of laughing where you can't breathe, where you have to stop walking because you might actually fall over. She's asking me for every detail. What did he look like? What did you say? What did his face do when you told him about the hospital? And I'm retelling the whole thing, and I'm retelling the whole thing in real time on these empty streets at midnight. It's genuinely one of my favorite memories, which sound insane given the context, but that's the thing about disasters. The best part is never the disaster itself, it's who you get to call right after, and years later, genuinely years later, I still bring it up. We still laugh. Some stories just stay with you, and this is one of them. Like, years later, we are still laughing about it, and the next morning, I texted him and I ended it immediately. No chances. I mean, why to do catfish? Isn't it better to just don't get a comeback from a match than to be stood up at the moment of the date? So this was my horrible Great Escape date. And if you think that was bad, wait until I tell you about the other ones. Stay tuned for the series of the worst dates I've ever had. That's it for today. I'm Gigi, and this was As It Is.